Hello, welcome or welcome back to the YarnNYarns YouTube channel. My name is Angela and all the places you can find me should be linked in the description box below this video. Here on the channel you'll find me chatting about our adventures in knitting, spinning, crochet and weaving, all of the fibre related things. Welcome to day 2 of our 12 cast on adventures 2024. I am embarking on my usual cast on frenzy, cast on party, where I cast on 12 new projects to hopefully see myself through the next year or the next couple of years worth of my making, depending on how long these projects take. I'm someone who has lots of projects on the needles and I don't really mind how long it takes me to finish things. If this happens to be the first video that you're watching on the channel, it's become a bit of a community make along and lots of people out there in YouTube land. Jump on board and join me. You can cast on one project if you would like to, or up to 12 projects. The cast on started on the 24th of December and goes right through till the end of January. So there's plenty of time for you to join in if you would like to do so. There's a hashtag we're using on Instagram, which is 12 cast ons 2024. And also there are some threads in our Ravelry group if you'd like to chat and share pictures over in Ravelry too. And links to Instagram and Ravelry are below. Yes, this is day 2 of our cast on adventure, but I'm actually going to be picking 2 projects today that may get cast on later in the cast ons. I'm probably confusing you already. So let me just explain. So one of the reasons that I started my 12 cast ons make along was because I wanted to use patterns and yarn that are already in my pattern library or in my yarn stash, things that I have been wanting to cast on and just haven't found the time to do so. A few months ago, I decided to compile a couple of lists on my phone of patterns that I have in my Ravelry library that I'd like to cast on, and patterns that I have in books that are sitting on my shelf in my craft room that also I would like to cast on at some point. And so I thought, as part of the make-alongs, it would be quite fun to pick a project from each of those lists to cast on. And if I have yarn in my stash, then great, I will cast on immediately. But the reason I'm doing this today is because there is a chance that one or both of the projects that I pick out I might need yarn for, in which case I might need to order yarn and wait for that yarn to arrive later in January. It's December as I'm recording this. I'd like to get the ball rolling on this at the start of the video. If I happen to have yarn for either of these projects in my stash, then I'll cast that on today. But if not, then as I say, I'm giving myself time to pop in some yarn orders if I need to do so. I've got a couple of different lists on my phone. I've put them into my sort of randomizer app. If you've watched my making plans videos, which I often post at the beginning of each month, I've got a little app on my phone which has a sort of spinning wheel element to it, and you can pop in any sort of data that you want, any information that you want, and spin the wheel and it picks a random project. So I have got a list on my phone called Cast on Something New, and that includes all of the patterns in my Ravelry library that I'd like to cast on at some point in the future. And then I have several different lists for the projects in my pattern books. It was getting a little bit unwieldy to keep everything all on one wheel. What I've done is I have separated them out into 4 different categories. So I've got socks, shawls, which also includes cowls, head and hands, so gloves and hats basically, and then sweaters. And then I've got a separate wheel with all of those categories on. So I'll pick a category and then I will pick something from the category that gets picked. Does that make sense? It will make more sense as we go along. The first one, I think I'll do the one from my Ravelry list because everything is all sort of jumbled in together. All types of projects are on that list. So let's get that one up. That's the Cast on Something New. As you can see, that wheel is jam-packed. So let's spin this and see what comes up. It's going to be quite interesting because I think there's a possibility that there'll be some patterns on here which I won't recognise straight away because the names might all sort of blur into one. So it might be a mystery for me. I might have to look it up on Ravelry to see what it actually is. But let's give this a spin and see what we get. Ooh, okay. So this is the caribou sweater, which I'm pretty sure I will have to buy yarn for. This pattern was gifted to me by my lovely friend and our community member Louise, And yeah, let me put the video on pause. I'll bring up the pattern page on Ravelry and we can have a look at it together, but I'm super excited. It's a lovely colourwork sweater. So this is the project picture on Ravelry. Isn't that lovely? It's just a beautiful colourwork motif with some deer, or as I like to think of them, moose, because I have a weird obsession with moose, the animals moose. If you followed for a while, you know this about me already. The yarn used is Pluto Lopi, which I haven't used before, and I don't really have anything suitable in my stash. I actually was recently amazingly gifted a quantity of Nutidin yarn from a dear friend of mine, which I don't think I've shared yet here on the channel because I have been really remiss and I haven't done a wrap-up video for a little while. But I have a different project in mind for that, and also it's not quite the right colour. I think there would be enough to make it the background colour, but it's quite a light colour and I would like a darker colour for the background. I did look at purchasing some Pluto Lopi a few months ago and it seemed to be out of stock everywhere, so I'm hoping that issue might be resolved, but I'm going to figure out how much I need for my size and hopefully get a yarn order in. Let's hope it's back in stock in places where I can easily get it from here in the UK. Oh, I'm so excited. This has worked out really nicely. I've been wanting to cast on that sweater ever since I was gifted the pattern, so yeah, perfect. That's one project picked and one that I'm not going to be able to cast on today. So let's see if the second project is going to be one that I will be able to get on the needles today, or if I'm going to need to choose something else for today's cast on. I've got my little randomizer to pick which category of project. Let's see, it might be interesting if it's another sweater, but we'll see. Okay, head and hands, that'll be interesting. I've got plans to cast on at least one pair of fingerless mitts through the cast-ons. Okay, that is the alloy hat from Pom Pom issue 19. I put myself a little abbreviation so I know what the project is. I'm going to need to go and run upstairs to get the pattern book, and I think I am right in remembering this is a 3-colour hat, I think, and it might be either slip stitch or brioche. I can't remember. I've got this idea in my head of a sort of, anyway, it doesn't really matter what I've got the idea in my head of, does it? Hopefully I'll be able to find yarn for this in my stash. Okay, so I have relocated to the craft attic and I've also relocated to a different time zone. Not literally, but it is the day after I recorded the first clip. So it's Friday the 29th of December as I'm recording this, although I'm not sure when this video will go up on YouTube. I recorded me spinning the wheel yesterday on Thursday just to give myself a little bit of a head start and to try and figure out whether I would have potential yarn for any of the patterns that might come up as a result of that sort of random picking. I'm happy to say that I was able to order yarn that I need for the caribou sweater, so hopefully that will be arriving next week. It's already been dispatched super quick, so yeah, with any luck that will be a cast on for later on in the month. A little bit of a spoiler, I hope you don't mind. For today's video I'm going to be casting on the alloy hat. So I have pulled out from my collection of pom-poms, and pom-poms sadly are no longer going to be in production after the current issue. This is issue 19, which is from winter 2016, so quite some time ago, and the alloy hat is a pattern by Tatiana Scocci, I think is her name, so I shall pop that up on the screen. And it is a brioche hat, I did remember correctly. I think I'm going to go for another quantity of yarn that I purchased from my friend Jeanette's D-Stash. These three beauties from Garth & Orr, and I've not knit with YarnNYarns yet, and this is just such an intriguing blend of Polworth and Romney, and I love spinning both of those fibres. So yeah, when I saw these on Jeanette's D-stash, I just couldn't resist. The alloy hat pattern calls for a sport weight yarn, and this is DK, so hopefully I will have enough. The hat pattern is written for several sizes, so my plan is to go down a size in terms of the stitch count. So usually I would knit a medium or a large hat, so I'm going to knit the small pattern. I'm going to go up a needle size from what's recommended in the pattern and hope that my yarn lasts. We shall see. Could be a disaster, but I'm hoping it will be fine. Famous last words. I'm excited to see how this goes, and at the end of the day, if for any reason I'm not liking how it looks, then I can always frog and reuse the yarn for something else. I'd originally thought these might make a nice colour work of some kind. Brioche, I guess, is a kind of colour work. So yeah, but I really just love how these three colours look together. So I'm going to get these wound up and cast on later. James and I are going to head out for some lunch. I think the sun is currently shining, although I've literally just got back from the post office. I had a YarnNYarns order to post and I got drenched, so I'm a little bit soggy around the edges. So it's one of those really changeable days. I mistimed my post office walk because, yeah, I got wet. And now the sun's out. What can you do? Sorry for shaky cam, I've left my other camera upstairs, so I'm just recording this quickly on my phone. We're about halfway through our movie afternoon, or evening as it is now. I've had a little bit of a slow start on the hat because it's been a while since I've done 2-colour brioche in the round, and I did my first couple of rows wrong in terms of moving my yarn around for the yarn overs. If you've done brioche stitch before, you know you're slipping stitches and doing yarn overs, and yeah, I just kind of messed up my first couple of rows, but I found out quickly I was going wrong and I remembered what I needed to do. So yeah, I'm back on track now, but I've only got a little bit of progress for almost 2 hours work. But I've forgotten how squishy and lovely brioche is. Oh my goodness, just like that, day 2 is already over. I had a lovely time knitting away, watching the last of the Lord of the Rings trilogy movies yesterday afternoon. I did take a few more breaks from my knitting because I love the rhythm of brioche stitch, but there's a lot of moving the yarn backwards and forwards and doing purling as well, which is always harder on my hands. So I'll share the progress with you in just a second. But I've got into quite a nice habit with my 12 cast on projects of knitting a couple of rows and then checking in on Instagram to comment on people's 12 cast on posts. Don't forget we're using the hashtag 12 cast ons 2024 over there on Instagram. So I do that, or I knit a couple of rows and I answer a YouTube comment. So it's quite a nice way for me to engage with our lovely community, you lovely people out there, as I'm working on my own 12 cast on projects. On Instagram, I've seen a Playdate cardigan cast on. Someone is knitting the Advent garland mittens that I knit last year. A zip yarn cowl, beeswax mitts, a jessamine cardigan, a Lita shawl, Find the Joy socks, and oh, apologies, had to pause then for a coughing fit. I have no idea what that was about. I was about to say there was also a couple more Musselburghs that have been cast on the Musselburgh hat. ever popular pattern in the last couple of years. Okay, so time to share with you my progress on my alloy hat. I'm keeping my project in this self-made project bag. I haven't used this one for a while, but it's quite a special project bag to me. I have this sort of floral vintage fabric, which was some fabric that was in my grand's stash that I found after she passed away. Made a few project bags out of that. Some I sold and a couple I kept for myself. So it's big enough to fit the issue of pom-pom in, as well as my 3 cakes of yarn and my project, of course. Let me try and give myself enough slack on the yarn there so I can put the bag down but show you. So here is day 2 progress. So I'm really happy with how these colours are working together. I have quite a lot of inches to do in this first colour combination. If you remember from the pattern picture that I shared yesterday, it has a folded brim. So part of the hat will sort of show the purple as kind of the main colour, and then you get the right side, which is the yellow, and then I'll bring in the pink at the top. So there's still a fair amount of knitting to do with these first 2 colours before I get to switch in the next colour. But oh, I just love how squishy brioche is. I'd forgotten how much I love knitting brioche. As I mentioned earlier, there's just such a nice rhythm to it for me. I just find it quite a relaxing stitch to knit. This yarn from Garthenor, the Polwarth Romiley blend, is just stunning. It's just beautifully soft, but it's also got that nice sort of proper, what I would call proper woolly feel to it. So yeah, I'm so happy that I picked up these yarns on D-Stash and that I've been able to cast them on fairly quickly. The only downside, it's a real downside to this project, is I couldn't find a small circular needle in the right needle size. So I'm knitting this on magic loop, which when I knit a hat I prefer to just do on the sort of 40cm circular, or 16 inches I think that is. Yeah, I think about 16 inches. But yeah, I just wasn't able to find a needle free of the right size, so I've ended up putting it on a longer cord and doing magic loop, which, I mean, I magic loop for my socks and stuff, so it's not a problem. It's actually a way that I enjoy knitting. But yeah, usually for a hat I prefer to knit on just a small circumference needle so I can just go round and round and round. But it wasn't meant to be, and it hasn't been a huge obstacle. Okay, so yeah, that wraps up day 2 for me. I am looking forward to hearing in the comments below what you've cast on since the last video, or if you haven't been casting on, just what you've been working on, because I love to hear about all of the projects that you're working on and be inspired by all of your lovely knits, your crochets, your spins, your weaving, anything creative I love to hear about. So yeah, please do drop me a comment below the video to let me know what you've cast on or what you've been working on. I shall be back again in a couple of days. I am casting on again today. It's Saturday the 30th of December, but it'll be a few more days before the next video goes up, as I've previously mentioned and I will probably continue to mention. Although for the first few days of my 12 cast-ons adventures this year, I'm casting on day after day. I'm giving myself a little bit more time to knit by taking a little bit of a break from the video editing, so the videos will be a little bit more spaced out, and I figured that would be okay because as I go back to work next week, then my cast-ons will be happening at the weekend, so there'll be sort of bigger gaps between me casting on anyway. So yeah, right, stop waffling and you need to get started on your next cast on. So yeah, thank you for watching today's video. I will be back again in a few days with cast on number 3. So until we get to spend time together again, I hope you get to do some other things that you enjoy. Great big woolly hugs to you all. Bye for now. Bye.